Alex, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you've played it for about an hour and a half. You've actually got your hands on it.
Yeah, they did some very limited hands-on.
Yeah, and nobody else is going to get their hands on it until November, so you're in a very privileged position right now to tell us stuff about it that nobody else knows. I mean, my understanding of it is that it's the first properly open world Pokemon, but I feel like I've got a bit of deja vu about that one. What's the story there?
Yeah, so obviously they did Pokemon Legends Arceus. Arceus? I think it's Arceus. And that obviously came out in January. So it's interesting twofold, because that means we've got 2 Pokemon games this year, which is rare. I don't think that's ever happened with 2 games on this scale. We get a lot of spin-offs. And that's technically what Legends Arceus was, except Legends Arceus did feel like a big, full, new Pokemon game.
Yeah.
So this is the next, really, truly the sequel to Sword and Shield, the new Pokemon generation. And whereas Sword and Shield was the UK, or the Pokemon Universe's version of the UK, which is called Galar, this is the Pokemon version of Spain. So
Lovely.
that's kind of cool. It's different and interesting. They've tried to take some of the bits and some of the lessons learned from Legends Arceus and apply them to a more traditional type of Pokemon game. And so it's sort of like, so catching Pokemon functions more like it did in the classic games and in everything up to Sword and Shield. It doesn't have that instant snap, 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 catch by just throwing Pokeballs that you had in Legends. But you do have a very open-ended world. In fact, I would say it looks like it's more open-ended than Legends Arceus. And so you can fly around, glide, and, it's got those in some of the video footage we've got, which incidentally, this is footage that was provided by Pokemon, so we weren't allowed to capture the game. This is footage they provided, but in some of the footage, they've got that moment where you sort of walk up a hill and you're overlooking and you can see the great big town, which sort of is a huge town that's supposedly the largest place in the region. And it's sort of got that Zelda game where Hyrule Castle is right in the middle of the map, or very central, and like you keep going back to that, I guess you will, because it's a big city, this place. But the openness is sort of demonstrated in like Pokémon Centres, right? So they typically have been buildings that you enter and you go in and that music plays and all the rest. Here, there's Pokémon Centres just in the field, and they're almost like kiosks. So they've got rain cover, but you don't go through a door, you just walk up to them. And these are dotted around all over the place. In fact, functionally, you know what they feel like? The stables in Breath of the Wild. So this was actually a pretty complete build of the game. There was some weird stuff, like you got into battle encounters and some Pokemon had Japanese names and stuff like that, but it was pretty complete. And so what we had when we started, they didn't say how far in, but I'm going to guess we kick off and maybe it's an hour or 2 into the game. And basically, at that point, I had 3 different mission strands I could take on. So one of them is the rival team paths. Obviously, they always have Team Rocket and Galaxy and all these other secondary antagonists. And this is the same here. So the team this time is called Team Star, and this was a story path that involved beating the people from Team Star.
Okay.
There was the gym challenge path, which they called Victory Road. Of course, Victory Road, classic Pokemon thing, and that is classic. You go around and you beat the gym lead, you do the gym challenges and then fight the gym leaders and beat the gym leaders. And so I beat the challenge of and fought the grass type gym leader in this hands-on.
Okay.
Those 2 things I played, and then the third path was called the Titan path, and basically the people from Pokemon who were there for the hands-on, we had a limited amount of time, and they warned us that if you did this path, it was really cutscene heavy and you'd spend most of your playthrough watching cutscenes. So I didn't do it. I'm sure someone out there who did the preview then went and did that, but I decided to heed the advice and stay away from that path. But that path appears to be about tracking down mysterious, unique variants of Pokemon or something like that. The fact that it's called Titan Path seems to suggest it's about giant Pokemon, but I don't actually know 100% for sure, because like I say, I stayed away from it. But yeah, so you've got these 3 paths and you dropped into the world and it's like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? You can fast travel to a lot of different points, including the Pokemon Centres and stuff like that. And it's really interesting how it's just like, okay, go. To the point where we all had a a chaperone sitting over our shoulder. Always my favourite thing in game previews. Who literally, if you went too far, if you went to the areas that they didn't want you to see yet, they'd tap you on the shoulder and say, you can't go there.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
fair enough. I just feel really self-conscious about being watched. I really think it feels like an alive world. I really think it feels like you've got a lot of choice about where to go and what to do. And that feels like a real step up. Other areas that feel like a real step up, like the character creation feels like it's the best there's been in a Pokemon game to date. I think we got some footage of that. The character customization, both in terms of the look of the character when you create them, but also what you dress them in, that's a bit more present because the trainers are always present when you're battling, so you can always see them in the background. And even things like you can obviously ride around on a Pokemon to help you get around quicker. And if you get into a battle and you're riding when you get into the battle, you'll still be in the background riding along, you know, on your steed while your Pokemon's battling in the background. I really like that stuff. And that stuff links in with the co-op because we did a bit of co-op. So you can do up to 4 players. And so you can do stuff like one person can be in a battle and the others can be behind that battle taking selfies and stuff like that. And it's all visible.
That sounds incredible, actually. Yeah.
So stuff like that is really, really rad.
That's going to go mental on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. You can totally see it. And, you know, you can see that it seems like the scale of stuff they're doing is larger. Again, coming back to that character customization, the gym leader takes a photo with you, a selfie with you after you beat them, which also sort of showcases your customization. You're presumably, as you progress, going to have a collection of photos where your clothes are changing and stuff like that. And also, I want to know, I didn't mention it earlier, but none of the clothing options and customization options are gender locked. So you do pick a boy trainer or a girl trainer at the start, but once that's done, you do what you want. So you pick that body style almost you want, but you can have any haircut, any clothes, wear a skirt, wear trousers, whatever, which is cool.
That's really cool. And one of the things I wanted to touch on with you is that, so it feels like a bit of a grand kind of project going from Arceus up to this and surely beyond to sort of reinvent Pokemon. I guess to modernize it, to make it quote unquote next gen, but modernize it in the terms of like it's borrowing stuff from other big RPGs and making it its own. So we've got a next gen Pokemon game, but it feels like it's struggling on the very not next gen hardware that it's running on. What was the performance like when you were playing it?
Well, this is where it gets perhaps a little bit less glowing. For one, this is a non-final build. You know, I can't stress that enough, and you never know how much a game is going to improve. The answer is it's all over the place. Legends Arceus was too. I do feel like this performance is worse, but they're also clearly trying to do more. The thing that made me a little bit iffy is that when I was spinning the camera and it was loading world in as I was moving, the minimap was like sometimes running at like what felt like a really low frames per second that didn't match the rest of the game. And so when you're trying to navigate, it made me feel a bit sick.
Oh, no.
But I don't think it particularly performs any worse than, I think Sword and Shield was a similar game where it had technical issues. I'm not being mean when I say this. I just don't think Game Freak is quite as technically skilled as many other developers on games and series that are this big. I just think they're a little bit they're a little bit behind the technical curve, and you combine that with the fact that they're working on a machine that is now at this point beginning to creak and show its age, and you end up with this game, and then you combine that with the fact that this game is ambitious as hell, and that's sort of the perfect trifecta of machine that isn't great for this sort of stuff, a dev that isn't great at getting the best out of the machine.
As we say, not a final build that you played. So, you know, there will be optimizations and stuff that they will still be tweaking. It just highlights the need, I think, for new Nintendo hardware.
Yeah, I totally think it does. I mean, it also highlights the need for, I think Game Freak really needs to go out, hire some hardcore technical experts. And it's weird because like Monolith did help on Legends Arceus, and I would be surprised if they weren't in this. But it's just when there's a lot going on, sometimes the performance is just not pleasant. And it's a shame because like there's ideas, like there's this new fast-paced, and we got a little bit of footage of this, of when you assault a rival team base. So rather than traditional Pokemon battles, you are running in as a person and you just throw your Pokemon out, and they just, in the third person without any battle prompts or whatever, just batter whatever's in front of them. The team assault bases, or at least the one I did, is more like a time trial of how quickly can you get through this base.
Yeah.
With only 3 Pokemon to work with, in this new streamlined battle where they just sort of do it on their own. And then at the end, once you reach the end of the base, you then have a traditional battle, which was, we haven't got any video footage of it, but it was a really cool traditional battle where the team boss was standing on top of a car. It was a really cool battle, and it had amazing music. But when you do stuff like that, it's like, wow, this is a Pokemon game with cool new ideas, and you're doing all this crazy stuff. But then the way it's performing is like, oh, man.
Well, let's just imagine a future where this is like at the vanguard of Switch Pro patches that hit, and everyone...
Well, exactly. That's the hope, right? And the thing is, technical issues have never held these games back that much before.
No,
and the other thing I'll say is, I saw a bit of Legends Arceus before release, and it improved quite a bit from then to final, even though there wasn't that much time. So hopefully the same is true of this, and there's a lot of optimization, because I think it looks really nice. I think it looks good. But it's just, I wish it performed a bit better. And that is the one thing. And I know we've gone massively over time, so I apologise to the people for the fact that you're going to have watched a bunch of trailer footage that you've probably already seen, as well as the new footage to pad it out. But I think the question is, do I think that this is going to be my favourite Pokemon game this year? And the answer is no. And I don't mean that in a horrible way. But Legends Arceus is just that good, and it's that different and unique. And I think what you've got here is a bunch of really smart ideas of how to try and bring some of that stuff together with the traditional Pokemon stuff and marry those things and make them work. Now, what's happened is, I think they haven't quite got there to perfection this time. However, this is a really good account for where they can get next run out, and I think this is going to be a really good game anyway. I just think in some places, even in this first hour, I could see areas where I was like, I can see how these two things have been stitched together, and they haven't stitched together quite right. But in other places, when I was seeing the co-op, when I was seeing the raids, the co-op, the raids, the new ideas around gyms, the new ideas around teams, all that sort of stuff, I think it's really exciting. But it's just, there's some places where it doesn't feel like it quite stitches together.
Well, Pokemon is something that certainly seems, it's on a journey, right? And I feel like, you know, since the 3DS, it's been in a state of flux from like essentially a Game Boy game into something, you know, more substantial, and it's still on that journey. But it's just really exciting to see where it's going. Yeah,
I'm really thrilled, and I'm really, really looking forward to it, and I can't wait to see. We were restricted to, the areas are actually numbered, so it's like it literally says on the map area 1, area 2, area 3.
Okay.
But I started out in area 1, and if I'd wanted to, or I think I started out in area 2 actually, and if I'd wanted to, I could have just gone straight to area 5, 6 if I was allowed. But it'll be really interesting to see exactly how open it is and exactly how you can break it open, because games like this with this sort of structure, one of the great joys is cracking them like an egg, right, structurally. So I look forward to seeing all that stuff, because it does seem like they're fully committed to being a truly open world, more so than the last 2 games, and that in itself makes this really worth a look.
I've been Jim Trinker for VG247, and you should definitely like and subscribe, because if you don't, you smell. Check out the website, check out the podcast, check it all out. Check it out like it's Supermarket Sweet, man. I'll speak to you later.